The shuttle trembled violently as it descended through the thick, swirling clouds of Valyria 5. Evan Carter gripped the control panel with white-knuckled hands, trying to keep the small human craft steady. The alarms blared, a harsh symphony of red lights and warning signals. Meteor fragments had pierced the shuttle's shields. Every passing second brought the threat of total destruction closer. His heart pounded. He had trained for emergencies, but nothing had prepared him for this being. Stranded on an alien world that existed only in classified reports and mission briefings. Finally, with a violent jolt, the shuttle slammed into the ground. Sparks flew from twisted metal, and the landing gear crumpled beneath the impact. Evan groaned, pain lancing through his side. The cabin smelled of burnt circuits and ozone. Coughing, he forced himself to stand, ignoring the sharp ache in his shoulder. Outside, the landscape was like nothing he had ever seen. The sky glowed in shifting shades of violet and orange, and enormous crystalline trees rose from the ground like towers of glass. Soft bioluminescent plants glimmered along the edges of jagged rocks, bathing the forest in a gentle, surreal light. Evan's first instinct was to check his equipment. Communications were offline. His navigation system had been scrambled by the meteors. Alone, vulnerable, he had only one option: find help. He grabbed his pack and cautiously stepped out of the shuttle, the alien air heavy with an unfamiliar scent. Every footstep on the crystalline ground echoed faintly, as if the planet itself was aware of his presence. Hours passed. He moved slowly through the forest, his eyes scanning for signs of life. Despite the beauty around him, a sense of unease clung to him. Valyria 5 was alive in ways he couldn't yet understand. Strange shapes moved in the distant shadows that seemed too deliberate to be animals. The soft hum of the planet's energy fields made the air feel electric. And then he saw her. A figure stepped out from behind a cluster of crystalline trees. A young girl, unlike anything Evan had ever seen. Her skin shimmered faintly, reflecting the colors of the bioluminescent plants around her. Her eyes were wide, golden with streaks of green, and they held a mixture of fear, awe, and curiosity. Her hair floated lightly, as if responding to a soft breeze he could not feel. She was small and delicate, but there was an intelligence in her gaze that made Evan hesitate. He raised a hand in a cautious wave. The girl froze, her mouth slightly open. For a moment, it seemed she might vanish back into the forest. But instead, she stepped closer. Slowly, carefully, she walked toward him. Evan tried to speak, his voice hoarse from exertion. I'm not here to harm you. She tilted her head, studying him. Then, in a mixture of surprise and concern, she called out in a language he did not understand. Her tone was high, urgent, but gentle. Before he could respond, she rushed forward and grabbed his arm. "Come inside, human," she exclaimed in halting, almost broken Basica language humans used for interspecies communication. Evan stumbled, unbalanced by the sudden pull. She guided him carefully, almost fearfully, through the glowing forest. Despite the strangeness of the planet, he followed her, trusting the instinct of a being who clearly wanted to help him. The air grew colder as the sun sank below the horizon, and Evan shivered. His injuries and exhaustion made every step harder. But the girl never let go of his arm, keeping him steady, guiding him toward what he assumed must be safety. After a few minutes, they reached a structure that looked alive in its own way. It was built from the same crystalline material as the trees, smooth and shimmering, with door-like openings that pulsed with a faint blue light. Evan had never seen anything like it. The girl gestured for him to enter, stepping aside as if this was her domain. He hesitated for a moment, scanning the area for danger, then nodded and stepped inside. The interior was astonishing. Soft, light-illuminated walls that seemed to breathe gently, and furniture-like formations glimmered with energy. A faint hum filled the space, soothing in its rhythm. Evan's senses were overwhelmed, but he could see warmth in the way the girl looked at him. She motioned for him to sit on a low platform, gesturing at what looked like food and warm liquids. He declined politely, but allowed her to pour him a drink of clear liquid that smelled faintly sweet. It tasted refreshing, and oddly familiar, giving him energy he didn't know he had left. As he sipped, the girl ran her hands over devices he did not recognize, speaking softly to them. Evan watched, fascinated. Every movement of hers seemed precise and meaningful. He realized she was not just a child. She was intelligent, capable, and curious. Despite the stories he had read about Valurian's legends that described them as aloof, telepathic, and cautious, she was neither distant nor fearful. She was eager to understand him, just as he wanted to understand her. Finally, she spoke again, carefully selecting words in basic. You. Broken. You. Hurt? She gestured at his shoulder and sighed. Evan nodded. Yes, I crashed my shuttle. I need to repair it, but I can't do it alone. Her eyes widened, and she gasped softly. Alone. Dangerous. You stay. Safe. Here. She seemed insistent, almost pleading. Evan, despite his stubborn independence, could not refuse. There was sincerity in her voice, and in the gentle way she hovered near him. Hours passed, and night fell over the crystalline world. Evan leaned against a smooth wall, resting while the girl busied herself around him. He studied her carefully. Her people must be highly advanced, yet she acted with innocence and kindness that he found deeply moving. Despite the strange circumstances, he felt a spark of hope. Here, in a foreign world filled with unknown dangers, he had found a friend, someone willing to risk her safety to help a human. Suddenly, the soft glow inside the structure shifted. Evan looked up to see two figures approaching. Adults, taller, their movements deliberate and cautious. They were unmistakably Valurian, but unlike the girl, their skin radiated a cooler, steadier light. They spoke quickly in their native tongue, glancing at the girl and then at Evan. The girl responded, pointing toward him, speaking rapidly in Valurian before repeating her words slowly in basic. Human. Needs help. Crashed. The adults studied him carefully, their expressions unreadable. For a moment, Evan felt the weight of judgment. He had no idea if they would welcome him or see him as a threat. He swallowed hard and tried to remain calm, speaking in basic, I mean no harm. I am alone. I only seek help to repair my shuttle and leave safely. The Valurian parents exchanged a glance. Then the mother, a tall figure with shimmering silver eyes, nodded slightly. Her hands moved in graceful gestures, communicating something to the father, who inclined his head in agreement. Finally, the mother spoke in basic, her voice calm and even. You may stay. For now, safe here. Relief washed over Evan, though he kept his voice steady. Thank you. I appreciate your kindness. Girl Lyra smiled broadly, clearly proud that her family accepted him. She bounced on the balls of her feet, pointing at different corners of the structure, explaining things he could barely understand. Evan listened with a mixture of awe and curiosity, realizing that he was witnessing an entirely new way of life, one shaped by principles he had never imagined. As the hours dragged on, Evan began to feel the weight of his exhaustion. He leaned back, closing his eyes, and allowed himself to rest. Outside, the bioluminescent forest pulsed in waves, and the sounds of the alien night filled the air. Lyra stayed nearby, occasionally adjusting his blanket or offering a comforting touch on his arm. She whispered words he did not understand, but the tone carried warmth and protection. Finally, as sleep began to pull him under, he realized something profound. Despite the stories, despite the distance between human and Valurian worlds, he was not alone. He had found someone who believed in helping and protecting and sharing. In the vast unknown of Valuria 5, a small spark of trust had formed a connection that might change both of their lives forever. And as he drifted off to sleep, Lyra watched him with wide, amazed eyes. The human was unlike anything she had imagined. Strong, fragile, and full of curiosity and courage. She whispered softly, a habit she had already formed. Come inside, human. Safe here. For Evan, the words became a promise of hope. A promise that, no matter what dangers awaited, there were still beings in the galaxy who could be trusted, who could show kindness, even across the vast gulf of space. And as the strange, glowing night embraced them both, The human and the alien girl began a story neither of them could yet fully understand, but one that would shape their futures in ways they could never imagine. Morning on Valoria 5 arrived in waves of soft violet light. The crystalline trees glowed brighter as the sun, or what passed for it on this distant planet, climbed slowly above the horizon. Evan Carter stirred awake on the soft platform where Lyra had helped him rest. His body ached from the crash and the long walk through the alien forest, but sleep had eased much of the pain. When he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was the young Valorian girl leaning over him, her golden green eyes wide with curiosity and concern. "Are you awake?" she whispered. Her voice was gentle, careful, as if she feared he might disappear if startled. Evan smiled faintly, trying to ease her worry. "Yes, I'm okay. I think I can move a little," shifted slightly, testing his shoulder. A twinge of pain reminded him he was far from healed, but nothing serious. Lyra clapped her hands softly, her excitement evident. "Good. Eat. Drink. Safe." She gestured at a small tray of fruits and liquids that glowed faintly in the morning light. Evan hesitated for a moment before taking a small bite of one of the fruits. The flavor was unlike anything he had ever tasted, sweet and crisp, with a hint of something earthy, but it was nourishing. He drank the liquid and felt energy returning to his tired limbs, while Evan ate. Lyra moved around the room, her movements quick and precise. She touched panels and crystalline devices, speaking softly in Valyrian. Occasionally, she glanced at him, as if gauging his reaction to everything around him. Evan realized she was not just curious about him, she was showing him her world, sharing it in a way that felt personal. "Your people?" she asked in basic, pointing at him, then at herself. "Different?" Evan nodded. "Yes, very different. We don't glow. We can't sense energy the way you do. But we try to be clever to survive." He smiled. "And sometimes we try to help others too." Lyra's eyes widened, a flicker of amazement crossing her face. "Help?" "Yes," Evan said simply. "Even when it's dangerous, we help." Her expression changed, thoughtful now. She studied him with intense focus. To her, humans must have seemed fragile and strange. But here was one in front of her who had walked through danger without fear and had survived. She had expected stories of power and strength, but what she saw was something entirely new: compassion, cleverness, and courage mixed together. The morning passed slowly. Evan sat quietly, observing the glowing room, while Lyra flitted around, occasionally showing him small devices, strange plants, and holographic images projected from her crystalline instruments. She pointed at each one, explaining in Valyrian, then repeating keywords in basic so he could understand. Evan listened, nodding, occasionally asking questions. He wanted to learn about this world, its people, and how he might survive here long enough to repair his shuttle. By midday, a soft murmur outside drew his attention. Evan looked through the translucent crystalline walls and saw several figures approaching. They were Valyrians, taller and older than Lyra, moving with careful grace. Some carried tools. Others simply observed. Their eyes glowed softly in the morning light, and the air around them seemed to hum faintly. Lyra ran to the doorway and called out, "Village! Humans safe. Here." The newcomers froze, exchanging looks that seemed heavy with judgment. They had never seen a human up close. Evan noticed their caution immediately. This was not fear, but careful assessment. The Valyrians moved differently from him, using energy flows in ways humans could not perceive. Yet he sensed curiosity behind their gaze. One of the elders, a tall female with silver eyes, stepped forward. She approached slowly, hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. Evan rose carefully, bowing his head slightly in respect. "I am Evan Carter," he said. "I come in peace. I only need help to repair my shuttle." The elder studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then, after what felt like hours, she nodded subtly. Her hands moved in graceful motions, and the other Valyrians relaxed slightly. Lyra clapped her hands in delight, bouncing on her toes. Evan smiled faintly, relieved. As the day went on, Evan began to learn more about the village. Unlike him, these Valorians did not live in structured buildings as humans did. Their homes were grown, shaped from living crystals, merging seamlessly with the natural formations around them. The village seemed alive, as though it breathed and moved with the planet itself. Paths shimmered faintly beneath their feet, reacting to movement. Plants pulsed gently, responding to touch, and the Valorians themselves radiated a calm energy Evan found surprisingly soothing after the chaos of his crash. Lyra stayed close, guiding him through the village. She introduced him to others in the village, though her explanations were quick and filled with excited gestures. Human. Clever, strong, gentle. She repeated these words to her people, who nodded. Though they seemed skeptical, Evan tried to show them simple gestures of goodwill. He helped carry small objects, assisted with minor repairs, and listened carefully to what the Valorians showed him. Slowly, their suspicion began to soften. The village had always viewed humans as unpredictable, powerful but dangerous creatures from faraway death worlds. Now seeing one who was cautious, respectful, and clever, they began to question their assumptions. That afternoon, as Evan explored a nearby crystalline clearing with Lyra, a sudden tremor shook the ground. He froze, instinctively scanning the forest. From the shadows, a creature emerged, a crystalline beast that glimmered with sharp edges and multiple limbs. Its eyes were cold, reflective, and intelligent. The Valorians gasped and stepped back, clearly unprepared to face such danger. Evan did not hesitate. Despite his injuries and exhaustion, he studied the creature carefully. Its movements were deliberate, but he noticed a pattern. Using sticks, stones, and small energy pulses from his tools, he guided the beast away from the village. He avoided attacking it directly. Instead, he created barriers and obstacles. Forcing the creature to retreat without harming it, the Valorians watched in awe. This human, small and seemingly fragile, had managed something their species had not. He protected without violence, solved without brute strength. Lyra's mouth hung open in amazement. Her people whispered, some in disbelief, some in admiration. After the creature disappeared into the forest, the village gathered around Evan, Lyra's father. A tall Valorian with an air of authority approached. He studied Evan carefully, his silver eyes narrowing slightly, then relaxing. You, human, clever, gentle, protect, village. His words were broken and basic, but the meaning was clear. Evan nodded, offering a tired smile. I only wanted to help. I did what I could. The village elder stepped forward. Cleverness, kindness. Rare among your kind, she said softly. Her tone was no longer skeptical. You. Different, Lyra beamed at him, clearly proud of the praise. She whispered something in Valorian which Evan could not understand, but the meaning was clear from her expression. She had never seen anyone like him. As evening approached, Evan helped the villagers with repairs in their homes. He showed them small techniques humans use to reinforce structures, adapt tools, and stabilize energy flows. They listened carefully, following his instructions with precision. Slowly, a bond began to form not just between him and Lyra, but with the entire village. They began to see that humans could be allies, not just dangerous outsiders. Night fell, and the village glowed softly in the dim light of Valoria 5. Lyra led Evan back to her home. Rest, she said. Safe. She arranged blankets and cushions, speaking softly as she tucked him in. Evan looked at her, gratitude in his eyes. Thank you, Lyra, for everything. You saved me when I didn't even know who to trust. She smiled faintly, a shy, proud expression. Human. Clever, strong, gentle you. Friend. Evan closed his eyes, feeling a rare sense of peace. In the middle of a strange world, surrounded by beings he had once only read about in legends, he had found trust, safety, and even friendship. The Valorians, cautious at first, were beginning to understand that humans were more than the stories they were capable of. Compassion, bravery, and clever thinking that went beyond sheer strength. And as he drifted into sleep, he felt a quiet certainty. The village, the girl, and this distant world had given him something he had never expected. Hope. Hope that even in the vast, cold expanse of space, there were places and beings that could understand, accept, and value him. Lyra watched over him, her golden green eyes reflecting the soft glow of the crystals around them. For the first time, she felt certain that humans were not what her people had imagined. They were more complex, more capable, and perhaps more amazing than anyone had dared to believe. The night passed quietly, filled with soft hums and gentle glows, as two species so different, yet now connected, began a story that neither fully understood. A story of trust, courage, and the bonds that could grow between worlds. The next morning, Valyria 5 shimmered in soft hues of violet and gold. Evan Carter had slept deeply, his body slowly recovering from the crash and the long walk through the alien forest. He awoke to the gentle rustling of the crystalline trees outside Lyra's home. Lyra was already awake, her golden green eyes bright with excitement as she studied him. "Morning. Human," she said, smiling softly. "Good. Day. Village. Ready?" Evan stretched, feeling the ache in his muscles, but also a renewed strength. "Good morning, Lyra. I think I can help more today." She nodded eagerly. "Yes, help. Smart human. We need." By mid-morning, word had spread through the village about the human who had saved them from the crystalline beast. A larger group of Valyrians had gathered near the village center. They whispered among themselves, watching Evan with a mixture of awe and caution. Many had never met a human before. Most only knew of them from stories tales of enormous strength, fierce survival skills, and unpredictable behavior. Seeing Evan, injured but calm, clever and kind, challenged everything they had been taught. An elder Valyrian woman, tall with silver eyes that reflected the soft light of the morning, approached Evan. "Human. Unusual," she said in careful basic. "Help. Clever. Save. Village you. Different." Evan inclined his head politely. "I did what I could. I did not want anyone to get hurt. I only tried to help." The elder studied him closely, then nodded. "You act like friend, not danger." Lyra bounced slightly on her toes, clearly proud of Evan's words being recognized. She tugged gently at his arm. "Human. Follow. Show." More curious, Evan followed her to a nearby field where the village had gathered tools and materials. They had begun preparing for a festival to celebrate the planet's energy cycle, an event that required precise timing and careful coordination. But today, the preparations seemed chaotic. The villagers were skilled in their own ways, but they lacked certain techniques for efficiency, techniques that Evan, with his human experience, could easily teach. He moved among them, offering simple suggestions, arranging tools for faster access, setting up materials in logical sequences, stabilizing energy conduits to prevent collapse. The Valyrians watched carefully, their expressions shifting from skepticism to admiration. They had never seen someone approach problems in such a practical, step-by-step manner, and it fascinated them. Lyra stayed at his side, translating where she could and providing encouragement. "Human. Clever, strong, gentle," she repeated to the villagers. "See? Hey. Helps without harm." The day passed quickly. Evan found himself teaching and learning at the same time. The Valyrians had knowledge of energy, flows, and natural materials that humans could never replicate. He marveled at the way their buildings seemed alive, responding to touch and thought. And in return, they marveled at his ability to organize, plan, and solve problems using nothing but logic, observation, and human ingenuity. As the afternoon sun began to wane, a sudden disturbance rippled through the village. The ground shook, faint at first, then violently. Crystalline formations quivered, and a low hum rose from the planet itself. Evan's instincts kicked in immediately. He grabbed Lyra's arm. "Stay close to me. Something's coming." From the forest's edge emerged a group of crystalline creatures, larger and more aggressive than the one from the previous day. Their multiple limbs scraped against the crystalline ground, sending sparks into the air. Their eyes glowed cold and calculating. The villagers froze, unsure how to respond. Their natural abilities allowed them to sense and manipulate energy, but they were not prepared for coordinated threats of this size. Evan took a deep breath. "We can handle this, but we need to act carefully. Follow my lead." He quickly scanned the area and began using small tools and energy devices to create barriers and guide the creatures away from the village. Instead of attacking them directly, he used obstacles and strategic positioning, relying on clever tactics rather than brute force. Lyra watched, her wide eyes reflecting amazement. The villagers followed his instructions cautiously, realizing that humans approach danger differently, not with raw strength, but with clever planning and observation. After tense moments, the creatures retreated. Confused by the barriers and the coordinated efforts of the humans and Valyrians, the village erupted in soft murmurs of amazement. Evan's approach had worked, protecting everyone without causing unnecessary harm. Lyra ran to him, her face shining. "Human. Saved." Again, Evan smiled tiredly. "We all worked together. You helped too, Lyra." As evening fell, the soft glow of Allura 5 bathed the village in calming colors. A ship appeared on the horizon, a council vessel from the Valyrian High Authority. Its sleek crystalline structure glinted in the fading light. The villagers froze, aware that the High Authority rarely allowed contact with humans. Outside controlled conditions, from the ship descended 3 tall Valyrian officials. Their skin shimmered with authority, their eyes cool and calculating. They spoke in rapid Valyrian, and the villagers fell silent, tense with anticipation. Lyra stepped forward, placing herself near Evan. "Human," she said boldly. "Saved. Village. Clever. Gentle. Friend." The council officers studied Evan carefully. Their leader, a tall female with silver eyes, stepped forward. She addressed him in Basic, her voice calm but firm. "Human, you are not allowed to interact freely with our people. You are unpredictable. Your presence is concerning." Evan remained calm. "I mean no harm. I only wanted to help. I followed the path of caution and respect. I did what anyone would do in this situation, protect those in danger." The elder Valyrian woman, one of the villagers who had witnessed his actions, spoke quickly to the council. "See, human. Clever saves. Protects. Different from. Stories." The council leader's eyes narrowed. "Stories do not always reflect reality. Actions must be tested." As if to prove her point, the ground shook suddenly. A fissure opened near the edge of the landing zone, threatening to collapse the area where the council ship stood. Panic erupted among the officers and villagers alike. Without hesitation, Evans sprang into action. He assessed the situation, identifying weak points in the crystal formations and unstable energy flows. Using simple tools and his knowledge of structures, he guided the council and villagers to safer ground. Then, carefully, he stabilized the collapsing crystalline formations. Holding them in place with reinforced supports and energy dampeners, he quickly assembled. The council officers watched in awe. The human had not only acted decisively, but also prevented disaster without harming anyone. His actions spoke louder than any words. The council leader stepped forward, her expression unreadable. After a long moment, she spoke in measured tones. "Human, you have demonstrated unusual qualities. Cleverness, courage, and careful protection. You are. Not as we feared." Evan inclined his head. "I only did what anyone would. I could not leave people in danger." The lead officer nodded slowly. "You may remain. Under supervision, your actions will be reported. The village may continue to learn from you. But understand, contact with humans must remain cautious in the future." Lyra's face lit up. "Humans stay. Friend," Evan smiled warmly, "I will return. After I repair my shuttle, I will come back." The council officers left, and the village slowly began to relax. Evan turned to Lyra, who was beaming at him. "You were incredible," she said. Everyone, amazed. "You. Human. Different." Evan laughed softly, exhausted but happy. "I only followed my instincts. You and your village made it easy to do the right thing." That night, as the village settled into quiet calm, Lyra guided Evan back to her home. She arranged blankets and cushions, helping him rest. "Safe. Here. Always," she whispered. Evan closed his eyes, feeling a rare sense of peace. He thought about how far he had come from a crash on an unknown planet to being accepted by a species that had once feared humans. The Valyrians had seen not just his actions, but his intentions. They had learned that humans could be clever, kind, and brave in ways that went beyond strength or danger. Lyra watched over him, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the crystals around them. She had never imagined that a human could be so different from the story, so capable of compassion and courage. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "Come inside again. Human friend." Evan drifted into sleep, comforted by her words. In this strange world, among a people so different yet so accepting, he had discovered something profound: the bonds of trust, courage, and friendship could bridge even the vast distances between worlds, as Valyria 5 glowed softly under the alien night sky. A new story began, one that neither human nor Valyrian fully understood, but one that promised hope, friendship, and the possibility of two worlds learning from each other in ways that might change the galaxy forever.